Oh, yes, we are back. I want to apologize about Monday, but it wasn't our fault, okay? And we don't know exactly what happened. We just kept freezing up, and, there are some things that are better freeze dried than others, and live podcasts are just not one of them. So we gave up. We just said, fuck the whole thing, and we said, we'll just put it off until Friday, and here we are. And so far, this thing is not acting up. Of course, nobody's watching, but the bottom line is we're still getting the job done. Rick has humongous rock and roll news for us. So, Rick, I'm going to let you lead off the show.
Hi, guys. I'll bet you guys have been waiting for this. Remember the Monkees? There's still two of them left, and they're coming out with a live album next month. So head to your record store immediately. It's the Mick and Mikey Show, coming out early April. And there's a video out you can see of them doing a live version of Last Train to Clarksville. So in case you forgot the lyrics, here's your chance to rewarm them.
From themonkees.com, Mickey Dolenz and Michael Nesmith set to launch an Evening with the Monkees tour. There they go.
Limping down the street.
Now,
is there evening like 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.?
Yeah, an evening. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're at dinner at 4. So
that's exactly right. You got to get up at 7 to play around the golf. This is what I think. I think this whole thing all along was Michael Nesmith having a problem with either Davy Jones or Peter Tork. Because he would never do this. Was it Tork?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He and Tork never got along.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Because now all of a sudden, he's out there and he'll sing Papa Gene's Blues. If you can just pull anything off of an album, every kid had the Monkees album, every one of them. And
we got to watch the replays on Nickelodeon in 86 or 87. They played the entire series.
Wow.
5 days a week.
All 16 episodes. I want to start out the show by starting with my panel, okay? And I'm going to say one word, and you are going to say what you have to say about the topic, okay? And we're going to start with Brian. Coronavirus.
It's going to be a problem more economically than health-wise, but it is definitely spreading throughout the U.S. So take that for what it's worth.
All right. Jake?
Not too concerned about it, considering I'm traveling to Vegas next week on a plane, or 2 weeks from now, so I can't be too concerned about it myself.
Well, you're a true gambler, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm not canceling March Madness, so sorry, I'm already going. I'm committed, so hey, whatever happens there happens.
With
you may not be allowed in the
stadium,
stadium,
though. Corpse. So, I'm sorry?
Jake, you may not be allowed in the stadium. There's talk that they're going to not have any attendance for those games.
Oh, no, I'm going to the Vegas Strip, and we're just betting the games for 5-6 days.
Oh.
I'm not going to the games.
I thought you were actually going to a basketball game.
Yeah. No, I mean, no fans show up anyways unless you're a fan of the team. Those stands are empty for those first round games.
I got to tell you, the smart thing to do here, if you're going to go to Vegas, then if you want the best seat in the restaurant, just go in and do this. God, who turned the heat up in here? Rick.
Space rabies.
Yeah. You guys don't have any of that Bud Light virus, do you? Yeah. I hate Coronas.
I know.
That was my ode to John Hurt.
Yeah, their marketing team must be in a frenzy right now. If you're the Corona brew team, just like you can't search Corona without having like 100 coronavirus articles. Then they have beer as well.
Well, the coronavirus makes you more susceptible to other things, so now it's even worse because you've got Corona and lime.
Thank
you. Wear the lime around your neck like garlic.
I might have seen that one on Twitter a few times.
All right. As for me and coronavirus, there's one person in Manatee County here who is now out of the hospital and is in house quarantine and he has survived this. Were 14 people or 12 people, I want to say, but it became 14 people who were in the middle of being tested here at Sarasota Memorial Hospital, and they all tested negative. So we don't know anything in this area that is happening, but of course we're seeing the spread around the country as it goes. So, there are a number of things about this that I find.
On that, there was a case where it was a guy that was in quarantine, continuously tested negative for like 2 weeks. They let him out. He tested positive for the fucking thing and had to go right back into quarantine.
I know, what a bummer, man. I mean,
And I want to
geez.
say that was in like Houston or something.
Hey, get this. I walked into a Walgreens and there is no hand sanitizer, okay? They were completely sold out of hand sanitizer, completely sold out of masks. I mean Halloween masks, not just, no. I mean, regular, like...
People are buying fake schnozzes and hoping for the best.
This
I'm,
is maybe
exactly. It's like, how are you? Little Groucho get up,
this is potentially like dumb bro science, but I looked up some articles and they're saying using hand sanitizer is worse because it hurts the skin on your hands and it gives the skin more holes that can get infected.
Well, the thing that was...
I don't know if that's true, but I heard washing your hands too much kills the skin on your hands and makes you more susceptible to it.
Well, you got to be.
I don't know
prudent,
if that's true.
If you're using it, you got to be prudent. But I go into the store and they don't have masks. And the funny thing is, the masks are all made in China, which doesn't make you feel real good because it's not working there. But then the other thing, I sound like Bill Walton. It's not working there. Then. The sanitizer thing, and no, we don't have any. Well, when are you getting more in? I don't know. I know we're getting a truck in on Thursday, but I don't know. I don't think there's going to be any on there. Meanwhile, people are freaking out. I'm walking through the store, and I'm just grabbing isopropyl alcohol and aloe vera gel off of the shelves, and it's like there's a woman there, and she looks at me and she goes, what are you doing? I said, isopropyl 70%, I said, or ethyl alcohol. And I said, and you mix it with aloe vera. She goes, aloe vera? I go, yeah. That's the aqueous-based solution that you need to form this thing. And you have a greater than 60% volume of alcohol. And then if you have a vitamin E skin cream, just put that on after you use it, and it won't dry out your hands completely. And I said, plus you can use it as a sex stimulant and lubricant. No, I didn't say that. Mr. Pharmacist.
And he did this for free? Wow.
Yeah, it was, why isn't the store, aren't these chains telling people that you can do this yourself? You don't have to sit and wait for us. And it's stuff that they're selling on their damn shelves, for God's sakes.
There was a local Walgreens where I used to go to school and saw today. I stopped there. They had to have a sign up that said, using vodka to replace hand sanitizer is not an option. People were using vodka to wash their hands because there was no hand sanitizer. And I'm
Oh my God.
The proof is not high enough for that.
But you want to know what's amazing? It's not just the hand sanitizer and masks that are nowhere to be found. You know what's going up in sales?
Probably alcohol, rubbing alcohol and peroxide.
No, ammunition. Get this. Can you believe this?
Yeah,
Corona
would.
zombies,
the
man.
virus.
Corona zombies. People
can't
become
shoot-
zombies and then you have to unload.
This is our
No, you're
answer
gonna
to
have shootouts
everything.
you're gonna have shootouts in the middle of the fucking Walmart shopping centers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walter Brennan. Sanitizer was mine.
Drop that Perel.
It's like, you feel lucky, punk.
Oh, who the hell
Ammunition.
was that other guy? That the other old guy that was on all of those fucking westerns?
Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
No. From the 50s. That always had the longish white beard.
Longest
Star-
white.
Is it- yeah,
Gabby
he-
Hayes.
There you go.
He was
Dang,
another
David.
one. Yes, Kathy Hayes. Yeah. eBay has banned the sales of face masks, hand sanitizer amid coronavirus price gouging. That's the other great thing that's come of this. What America's really all about.
That's
It's like,
right.
you know, hey, you can be on eBay as an eBay seller, and you can be just as destitute as far as your ethics and morality as the people on Wall Street for a day or two before they stop you. And again, the ban of the sales of face masks includes all masks of Donald Trump. So you don't try that as well.
I wonder if there's people reselling the masks after buying them out and just throwing them on eBay, or waiting to sell them back.
Oh, I'm
Only
sure.
one previous owner.
One previous owner.
All I'm going
Bless
to
his
do,
soul.
I mean, and this will tell you how the panic is. They won't even let us have our diversions. Headline: Will the porn industry be disrupted by coronavirus? I mean, an outbreak among adult actors could be catastrophic, says one porn producer.
It's legal in like one state, so I mean,
I'm expecting one porn actor.
I'm pretty sure the people who work in that industry are already in the city where they work, so I don't think it's that big of a deal.
This industry that created snuff movies, and they're concerned about the coronavirus. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And meanwhile, thousands of American residents have been asked by state governments to self-quarantine themselves. And again, these are people who have been out and may have had contact with somebody who looked like somebody who had coronavirus. So, you know, what I want to do is I want to get the pictures of just one person who has this disease and put it up on the internet so everybody can imagine. It's like, oh my God, I was around that guy, so I'm getting off a bus. You know, it's just like people, you know, just the panic will continue forever and ever.
Well, imagine the New York subways where people urinate and shit all over the fucking thing.
Well,
Yep, that's the worry.
We
There's
have
actually a big conference canceled for gaming coming up because it's near a homeless tent area or a tent city, and they're concerned the virus can spread there and the people won't get treated for it.
Yeah, we're gonna
So they're
ignore
trying
the polio
Yeah.
and the syphilis that's running rampant through there, but we're gonna worry about fucking coronavirus.
Hey man, that's what I was
Oh, I
thinking
got
too.
a disease, and they call it Corona. Tent City, here we come. You know, without improvisation, the show would be nothing.
I'd
But you
rather
know,
be in Texas or Arizona.
God damn it, you're killing me. Literally. You
yeah.
can be choked to
How
death.
about the people in the phone books whose last name is Corona? How are they feeling about all this?
Oh my God. I mean, here's something, and we're going to.
Hey,
sports.
imagine if it was actually named Carumba. The Simpsons would be fucked.
Yeah, get this. There's always somebody who will do something even dumber than, okay? Greg Robinson is a 157-pound trek across the Mexican border, but nobody has it on Quinnen Williams, the defensive lineman for the New York Jets, who was arrested Thursday night after attempting to board an airplane with a gun. I mean, he was arrested after they determined his permit for the gun is only valid in Alabama. Who goes on a plane with a gun?
Oh, don't you remember that dumbass that took over for Jimmy Johnson did that same thing when he was the coach of the Cowboys? He
Switzer?
got arrested at the fucking Dallas airport at DFW.
That was Barry Switzer, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had a loaded 44 caliber in his fucking
I thought it was Dale
carry-on
Spitzer.
bag.
I thought it was Dale Spitzer. I'm sorry. We're
He
going to
ran
continue.
Spitzer Motors.
Exactly. We're going to
There was a UFC commentator.
Go ahead.
There was a UFC commentator who was arrested for having brass knuckles in his bag in New York, because that is
Wow.
a deadly weapon. Yeah.
Well, by
how
the
do
way,
you
the
just
gun-
brass knuckles? You can't do anything with that. How do you not know that's in your bag? And how do you own those things? It's not even legal to have in the state.
Well, the weapon, by the way, was a Glock 19 pistol. But get this. This is the kind of reporting that makes ESPN, to me, the absolute best. I mean, you can get information that you never would have thought of yourself. ESPN's Rich Simony reported that Williams was arrested prior to going through security and the gun was not loaded. But Simony also said whether or not the gun was loaded is an important detail in the case. Thanks, Rich. Thank you for that legal insight. I do really appreciate it. And by the way, Rich, go fuck yourself. God, it's just ridiculous. Now, there is a bigger asshole with all of the problems in our country. We got a stock market. Was it down another 1,000 today? What did it end up down?
Didn't see.
I didn't see either. Yeah.
Not
But
sure how it
now?
ended up.
We'll
Bad
bounce back,
situation
whatever.
for a lot of investors, a lot of bad circumstances, okay? And so we've got...
Oh, it's been dropping a couple. If you're talking about the stock market, that's been dropping like a couple hundred points.
Today,
I don't remember if it was today, but it was this
it
week.
was down as much as 850 points earlier today, but it looked like it was maybe getting a little better. I don't know, but I mean, investors are, out money, and of course the coronavirus, which is has a lot to do with this, is affecting people, and some people are just narcissistic. Headline, and I hate to do this. God, make it stop, dear God. Bill Clinton says he feels terrible that his affair has unfairly defined Monica Lewinsky's life. Why are we... Why? Hulu is running a documentary about Hillary and Bill. Why? About his infidelity. Why? Why do I mean, why don't we just bring up Nixon again? Why don't we just take everything miserable? Why don't we relive the Vietnamese War? Why don't we do that? God, while we're all going down the shitter here, let's just, I would rather have coronavirus.
But the problem
than to
is,
watch
they're
that
still
fucking
more
documentary.
interesting than any of the assholes that are running for the Democrats.
No, a lot of them ran away is what it amounts to. I mean, and let it be known that Elizabeth Warren, and I told everybody that being mean and female and running for the presidency, not gonna work. And the reason is, in order to win that nomination, you have to appeal to male and female voters, and women don't like overly predatory, aggressive women, and men definitely don't. I don't know who she would have appealed to. I'm not saying this is right. I'm just saying it's the way it is.
No, she's a pulling guard. Her job was to blow up whoever, either Bernie or Bloomberg, was going to get in the way of Biden, and she's going to end up in Biden's cabinet if he does manage to get elected. And God help us if that happens.
Yeah. So for those people who are just joining the program, we're going to start talking about the Cleveland Browns. So I'll make sure that I put in the archive of the show. Skip to 18 minutes past the hour.
We were just
one
rambling.
thing I had to think about. I'm concerned that me doing this documentary that I decided to do would bring up bad feelings about the person that I hurt a long time ago. Why'd you sign up to do that documentary if you care so much about how she's doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, could you see Monica Lewinsky? Not again! Again! That's right, Monica. It's Monica, Neil, and Bob time.
Have you seen my cigar?
I'm doing the I Love Lucy thing because that's what Lucille Ball and
He probably heard about Corona and thought about cigars or something, and it just sort of
No, what Bill Clinton and Lucille Ball had in common, or what Monica Lewinsky, they both, had Cubans inside them. It's not the best joke in the world, but it was a joke at the time.
got some explaining to do.
Bring your
But
coronavirus and meet me at the
Lucy
club.
ended up with making the killing off of Desilu being sold off.
Yeah, and actually, the interesting thing was that Desi Arnaz was actually the mind behind that. I mean, and it was all about syndication. That's what created syndication on television. So The Philadelphia Eagles and Jason Peters have mutually agreed that Peters will enter the free agency market if he can walk that far. The Eagles are saying, we are appreciative of everything Jason has contributed to the organization over the last 11 seasons, yada, yada, yada. 38 years old. And the other thing is, all the reports that I saw on him is that he was having trouble finishing games. I mean, 38 years old, this guy is like a brontosaurus. I don't know, and what they're saying is, well, it would be a stopgap measure for the Browns. Yeah, like 2 games, Yeah. No, not a 38-year-old guy. And then there's Trent Williams. And then there's Maud. Trent Williams is 31 years old, and people are saying, well, he's got 4 more all-pro kind of years left in him. But, man, it would cost a hell of a lot of money. And there is a lot of difficulty right now because, as always in the NFL, there are young quarterbacks who are playing behind really inept offensive lines. And it's the same teams that keep coming up over and over. Now, one of them, your team, Brian, with Kyler Murray, they're gonna draft an offensive lineman. It is almost a certainty that they have to protect him better. So there's that. Then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, honest to God, never have a quarterback anyway. But the bottom line is they can't protect whoever they got. There's a series of positions here, like in the draft. The Cardinals at 8, the Jaguars at 9, and the Browns at 10 are all looking for that left tackle. And that's going to mean that guys like Wirfs, Jedrick Wills is another one, Andrew Thomas is another one, and now they're saying Mekhi Becton is going to go even higher because of his merry romp in the combine, and there are people suggesting he could go as high as like number 4, and it's the Giants, of course. They need to protect Daniel Jones. It's the story of the league. Anybody who thinks they have a quarterback who might be able to get it done, they just remember who was the original Carr, not Derek. Who was
David?
David.
Yeah, that's
He got
Run
killed in
pizza.
Houston.
and he and Tim Couch are the cautionary tales about concussions and gun shy and all of the things that you don't want in a quarterback because they had no protection. So
Well, was
everyone
that because of the expansion team, though? They were that was almost like the expansion draft, getting a bunch of guys that shouldn't be in the NFL around one star player. You think star player at quarterback, so you have like C or D level players on that team to get the quarterback killed.
Yeah, I mean, and this happens with organizations, and the hard part of it is, even if you spend up, all right, and you get a Trent Williams, and I know he's a fine ball player, but he's missed a lot of games in the last 3 years.
He's also had a growth in the fucking back of his head that prevented him from being able to fit a NFL helmet on his head.
Yeah, it's funny, his agent said it's not about the contract, and it's like, oh, come on, stop that.
Yeah, he thinks he's worth more than $20 million.
Well, and he may very
Guaranteed.
well be. Yeah, and basically, based on teams that are desperate, he probably is. But the problem here is not only age, which everybody brings up, but it's how the line gels. And last year, I know the players we had weren't very good, but there was no cohesiveness because the play calling was erratic and the concept offensively was a mess. And, Baker was probably 15 pounds heavier than he should have been. And there were a whole series, and was less elusive, whole series of things. And, but Trent Williams, they're going to trade him. Jason Peters is going to be in the market. Going back to my panel now, and we'll start with you, Rick. What do you do if you're the Cleveland Browns? I mean, you're going to hold tight and draft a guy knowing that the two teams above you, or at least three in the top 9, are going to select offensive linemen. What do you do?
Well, yeah, you probably cross your fingers and hope that there's still one of the college linemen still available, like Wirfs or that Becton or whoever, because that's our that's the biggest need that we have right now. The idea, though, is that as soon as if we do get an offensive tackle at number 10, let's not drop the ball on him and say this guy's going to be the next Joe Thomas. If you start immediately comparing a rookie offensive tackle to an all-pro like Joe Thomas, the guy's going to come up short no matter what he does.
I agree with you. And the other thing that is really distressing about the situation that we're in, you want to get a guy who is young, but playing around people, of course, never played around. And you're going to need a simplified offense. The scheme in Cleveland needs to obviously be simplified, and it's going to dumb down the offense and make it that much more predictable. And I think Stefanski is going to lean in that direction anyway. The Browns do have an interest in the guy from Georgia. Who am I blanking on name?
Thomas?
Yeah. That's one of the guys the Browns definitely have in there.
Yes, I figure they struck it okay with Joe Thomas, maybe one more.
No, he was blocking for Nick Chubb. So, but the Browns have $60 million in cap space, Jake, and more when Vernon goes away, which he will because he can't play more than 5 or 8 games a season. Which direction do you go? I mean, do you hit it hard for a Trent Williams and go for broke that way? Do you draft a guy with 10 and hope he fits in? What do you do?
If you're lucky enough to get one of the top 3 guys on the board at a line, you take them. I would stay away from an aging veteran lineman. I don't care how good he was in the past. And if your lineman that you like is not there, one of your top 3 guys is missing, I think you have to go and fill that hole with Vernon or find a middle linebacker. I would not reach for a lineman, to be honest.
So basically what you're saying is if one of the top 3, and the top 3 right now, I believe, would be Becton
Wills.
and say again?
Wills from Alabama.
Yeah, the other Alabama guy, right?
Wirfs from Iowa.
And Wirfs. Those, I think, would be the acknowledged 3 guys. But you're saying if those guys are off the board by 10, you would just move on to the linebacker. But what do you do with your left tackle situation?
I honestly don't. You'd have to look farther in the draft. I don't think any guy's a sure thing. I think the safest is the Alabama prospect, but I just don't know if there's a guy out there that could really fill the hole right now. Even if we get a great guy in the draft, I don't really see that guy being ready to take that spot right away, and I don't see a veteran guy being able to deal with the younger offensive line. So I think you just do what you can and maybe go line heavy and get a competition going later in the draft.
You're going to have probably somewhere in the range of $72 million in cap space. What do you do with that $72 million, Jake?
I would fill the linebacker spot with that money, I think. I would get a good inside linebacker, maybe 26 to 28 years old, and get him on a 3-4 year deal.
So what would you draft 10 then?
I would go tackle or line at this point.
You would go D-line.
Yeah, because that's a mess on the inside.
All right. Brian, what do you say?
Well, I think that I'm going to have to listen to Joe Thomas on this one, and he thinks that Wills would be the best fit for what the Browns are going to be running. And so he was actually the first one, and John Greco was the second to be actually down a little bit on Wirfs, saying that he would be better as a starting guard in the NFL than a tackle. They didn't like his feet, and they didn't like the fact that he didn't bend as well to take on guys like Garrett that can really get low. He would have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can look at on film on these guys, and the one thing that is critical today is how you move your feet. It used to be you could be a big mauler, and that was enough, and that's not enough anymore because the level of athleticism in the league's way too high, and anybody who has trouble and has had spotted trouble in the college ranks getting beat off the line because of their feet not being very good is not going to stand a prayer in the NFL. If it's me, you know, to me it all starts and ends with the quarterback. Regardless, I know that, you know, there's a lot of positions on the field. The Cleveland Browns have to find out about Baker Mayfield, and they have to find out by Baker getting in better condition than he was last year and listening to the help that's going to be offered to him by Van Pelt, and to get his footwork, you know, working properly, because he was sailing balls. He was Boomer Esiasoning the balls last year. Everything was high and very often late. And not on, and I blame the offensive scheme and the former coach for that. But you got to know what you've got in this guy, because at this point you have nothing behind him. Mm-hmm. And if you are going to bring in and spend some of that $72 million on Case Keenum, for example, you're not going to be anything with Case Keenum except hovering around 500. And so if that's what you're looking for, that's what you're looking for. But you can't afford to start over again at the quarterback position until you find out the truth about Baker Mayfield. And the only way you're going to find the truth is if he's more prepared, if the coaches are more prepared, and if he has an offensive line in front of him that understands the system and the plays that are being run. You know, it's a mess. It's not easy. I don't know.
There's also no excuse for Baker last year. His line was bad, and that's gonna make him have a bad season. But his pocket presence was terrible. He did not protect himself in any way. He did not get the ball out of his hands. He took a lot of early sacks he could have thrown the ball away with. There's no defending him there.
You know, and again, you know, Austin, you're bringing up a point, and speed is huge, and not just from a pass protection perspective, but that ability, you know, you got to have strength, but you've got to have the nimbleness of foot. And at the same time, for run blocking, you've got to have the strength to turn your man, but you've got to get to a spot on the field. If you're going to run certain schemes that have misdirection or trap plays, as they used to be called, you've got to get to a spot on the field, and speed is humongously important. And you're right, Brian. It's lateral speed, not just single direction, straight ahead speed. But and hello to Brittany out there. How you doing, Brittany? Nice to see you. If it's me, I do whatever I can to get the best left tackle that I can get. If it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, I will take a chance on Trent Williams before I put another young guy. I mean, how many more do we have to put on the left side of the line and draft people who don't even end up playing in the league, or God only knows, taking a guy who is a reclamation project in Greg Robinson, who in a stripped down, simplified offense, the first year he played for Cleveland looked like a credible player, although he didn't let's just say he didn't PFF point his way to heaven, but he looked at least he's competent. And then last year, I mean, and now what's happened to him? He's obviously incontinent and incompetent, as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to see second-rate players manning that position. I don't want to see square pegs being jammed into round holes. I want to see somebody who's a legitimate left tackle, and as it is, we need some help on the right side as well. So, I mean, this is not easy, and I hope that we use our running game, and I hope that, and it's the thing that scares me most about the Browns, is that the people who are doing the deciding don't have the best track record. And Austin is also saying, if Simmons drops to 10, Simmons is not going to drop to 10.
The big names are not dropping to 10.
Bypass Isaiah Simmons for an offensive tackle. I can guarantee you that. He's going to go, and he's going to be a top 5 pick, and I have no doubt about that. No doubt, because he had a good combine. It's not like there was a red flag on this guy. I think that everybody knows who he is, what he's about, and he will get selected. And Pittsburgh will get up into the top 5 somehow and get another great linebacker. It always works out that way. So,
Well, actually, he would be a guy that could take Troy Polamalu's spot, where he's all over the fucking place, no matter what,
Yeah.
what
They
the
did ask
defense
him at
is.
the combine what position you played. He just said defense.
Defense.
yeah. Now again, this is what nervousness creates. And I'm going to ask the panel this, and we'll go back around the other way with Brian. Letting Schobert walk in free agency, which is what's happening, is that a mistake?
Yes and no. No.
Boy, what a
in the-
wishy-washy answer. Geez, Brian, who's usually so
yes, it's a mistake
on
in the
point.
sense that he is like having another coach on the field and really does know how to get guys into a good position to counter whatever the offense is doing. No, because he's led the league the last at least 2 years in missed tackles. So from that standpoint, you're giving up an extra, let's say, 80 yards a game because he's on the field, as opposed to,
I mean,
But we did see how much different the defense looked when he was not on the field and calling the plays.
yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you, Jake. It's not exactly with Kirksey out, and Kirksey will always be out, I have a feeling, and he's not a good coverage linebacker anyway. Is it that Schobert looked good because everyone else around him was bad, or is he a salvageable player for the right price for the Browns, if there is a right price?
Well, his price is out of range for the Browns. They're not going to give him $8 to $10 million. There's no way, and I don't think he is worth that. And I would like to say guaranteed. It's a good move to move on because we can't pay him that money. I want to see who they replace him with, and I don't think they're getting a linebacker in the draft anymore. I think they're going to look to spend the money and get a solid 3 to 4 year guy, maybe in his mid-20s, and build around that on the defense. So if they replace with a better option, great. I want to wait to see that before I guarantee my choice of saying, yeah, get rid of him. But at this point, I think it's a good move. They can't pay him $10 million.
Yeah, Bronk, on March 8th, technically, Sunday at 2 o'clock in the morning, the clocks, go forward, spring forward for daylight savings time. So, yes, that is the case. Rick, is it a mistake letting him walk?
For the money he was asking, I would say yes. I mean, they're weighing it. I mean, he was probably the smartest guy on the field on the defensive side when it came to calling plays. But as Brian said, he usually led the league in missed tackles, and so I guess that probably weighed into the decision. this will give us a chance probably to find out if Mac Wilson's going to be what we think he might be, and we'll also find out if Taki Taki's going to be okie dokie.
Yeah, again, Taki did play more snaps as the injuries mounted last year, but there seemed to be a much greater attempt to bring Mac Wilson into the fold. But Mac Wilson proved that taking the wrong line on a lot of plays really hurt him, and they need to rein him in, because you don't make superstar plays in the NFL. You got to make the play that's in front of you. And I think somebody's got to tame him a little bit, because what he could get away with in college, the game is too fast. And if you make that kind of a bad decision, or if you take a bad line, you're hung out to dry. Yeah. Sometimes in some of these instances, what's between you and the goal line is nothing. And if you miss that one tackle, if you take a wrong line, or if a guy is coming over the middle and you try to jump a pattern and you take a step, just one lean in the wrong direction of anticipation, you're out of a play and you end up giving up vital yardage. But they have some kind of, at least the previous regime had some, and this is what we don't know. The new regime might be taking a look at Mac Wilson and saying, yeah, that's entirely possible.
Maybe they'll bring Schobert back later on to be like the Josh McCown of the defense, like some sort of like a coaching capacity once he gets older, and because he's definitely got the smarts to be a linebacking coach possibly, but at the risk of missing all those tackles, you got it sort of cancels the other out.
Yeah, and this I thought was interesting. Monday Night Football, and I don't know. I mean, Monday Night Football, when you have the announcing team of Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland,
how
do
we call it announcing? Is that what we call it now? Announcing what?
I'll tell you.
Oh wow! It's so bad.
What used to be a real franchise on ABC has just become another day. Paul McCartney and Wings. The rumors coming out.
Oh, I would have said Oingo Boingo, but
yeah,
they did have a song, okay. Just Another Day.
Yeah, we went back a little farther for that.
The word coming out of New York is that ESPN is trying to lure Al Michaels back to the Monday Night Football mold here to finish his career where he probably made his, I guess we could say, second biggest impact. And we know the Olympics in '80 were the boom for Al Michaels. But the other thing that's really interesting is they've seen a bunch of nationwide commercials, and they feel that Peyton Manning is worth $20 million. And, just to wave his penis in the locker room after the games.
Maybe Brad Paisley wanted 30, so they went for the cheaper version. He decided to go for Peyton.
I mean,
who'd you rather see, Brad Paisley or Carrie Underwood? Come on now.
The thing I can't understand about this, I mean, the games have to stand up for themselves. You got to do better. Joe Tessitore was doing boxing on ESPN, so he's not a football guy. And Booger McFarland, I mean, quite honestly, is not a very good announcer. They just need better commentators, better professionals who are targeted at the audience. I mean, you take a look at a guy like John Madden, who, and I'm not saying that because he's old and all that, but there's a guy who understood the sport, had some personality, and became the absolute perfect color commentator. But a play-by-play guy has to have a presence. Al Michaels would give that presence because he's a play-by-play guy. Joe Tessitore was a blow-by-blow guy in boxing and not a football guy.
And now he just blows.
But Tessitore, I didn't even think was the best boxing announcer, not by a long shot. So I don't
How
know.
much stock are you going to put in a guy named Booger anyway?
Well, exactly. I mean, especially if he tries to clear it with the coronavirus out there. I mean, it's like,
Well, I could even say what makes Tony Romo good at what he's doing, and I think that's why he deserves the $17 million he's getting, is
Yeah.
he's not entertaining. He just knows football, and he calls out stupid decisions when he sees them.
well,
That's what he
and-
does. He doesn't make it interesting. He doesn't freak out. He said, "What was that? That was stupid," on the air. But he's not energetic or entertaining. He just does the job of knowing football and knowing what should have been done. And that's all they need, really. But
The
I
other
don't
thing
think a
that was-
linebacker can do it.
The other thing that was amazing about Romo, and it's one of those things that, I mean, some people were born to have a microphone in front of them. And believe me, I have so many friends from my years in the radio business that, you know, we would put people on. I remember a friend of mine who was my doubles partner in Flint, gregarious, real funny guy. We brought him into the station and put a microphone in front of him and he froze up, you know? A lot of athletes may understand the game, but they can't convey that knowledge to the audience because either they're not verbal enough or they're just not comfortable enough in their skin sitting in front of a microphone or in front of a camera. Romo, I mean, stepped right in and you know, these guys do get coaching, okay, just like, you know, and something that players are used to, and they have broadcasting people who they work with. But Romo's got that something, and $17 million for a guy who's going to be around for a long time. You get the understanding why you pay a guy like that, because he's the next John Madden. He's a guy who's around the game, understands the game, and he can convey through language. He's a built-in broadcaster. But, you know, Booger McFarland might understand the game, but he can't convey that to anybody. And Al Michaels is a name, okay? And that's going to be tough. He's got 2 years left on his contract where he presently is, and I don't know that
He's
he
also
can-
77 years old. How long does he want to do this anymore?
That's right. And, you know,
That's
there's
in the
two...
Vin Scully territory there.
Too many former athletes man the booth, and they're not necessarily very
So,
good.
I have a question. Do you like Mike Tirico and Romo working together long term? Because Tirico is working directly with Michaels, and Michaels is teaching Tirico the behind the scenes stuff to take his
Yes.
spot. So
He's
they want to
being
have
groomed.
Romo and Tirico take over for a good 10, 15 more years.
Yeah, Tirico is being groomed. There's no question about that. And I don't know that anybody really... nobody replaces legendary
No.
people. Nobody really replaced John Madden. And it took a long time to find, you know, when I see all the different broadcast teams doing the Sunday games and watching the Browns, and it's like, God, how did this guy even get a job? I mean, it's insulting to me.
Tiki Barber.
Yeah, I mean, it's insulting to me as a broadcaster that, I mean, there's some things that you should have to do if you're going to be in broadcasting. I mean, first of all, you have to be able to be comfortable in front of a microphone. 2, you got to be quick-witted at least enough to come up with something. And the third thing I think every broadcaster should have to do stand-up comedy and bomb, because they would then know how important it is to be prepared and prepared for all kinds of things and not to get caught with your pants down. You got to sharpen your act up so that people, you know, and you got to have confidence. You got to sell what you're saying. And the thing about John Madden is the way, I mean, who knows what the hell he was talking about? I mean, half the time he was flying on that telestrator and it's like, what in the hell? And he
was
wouldn't even
drawing
finish
circles and
sentences.
finding the hole the running back ran through. They're like, he's so smart. He knows the running game. No, he doesn't. He just saw a 40-yard run. He's like, this wort. Let's put
And
an
he
arrow
wouldn't
through
even
that.
finish sentences.
Look at that block.
You know, he would just like, you know, I can't even impersonate. If you want to see who's the guy who does the great John Madden impression, the
Frank
Frank
Caliendo.
Frank Caliendo,
Caliendo,
yeah.
yeah.
Used to. He stopped that.
yeah, I mean, just brilliant, because it's like it was all like I don't know, like a pouring out of things from his mind, and uncompleted thoughts. But what the hell? He was entertaining, and he knew the game, and he had a successful coaching career. But and I agree, Romo's worth the money. But man, Peyton Manning at 20.
Yeah,
His
to walk
voice,
away- he
man,
was one of
his
the
voice
first
can't do it. Peyton's accent would bother me after like a week. No offense to him, but his voice just doesn't work for me.
You probably start trying to sell insurance too.
And I agree with Jake. I didn't like Chucky either, as a coach or as an announcer. Yeah, he always just was too over the top and trying too hard, That's the beauty. And I agree with what you're saying about Romo. The beautiful part of it is, he could have a scotch in his hand doing that. It's like it's all just natural to him. He doesn't. It's one of the reasons, and I know Dick Vitale, but and I joke about Dick Vitale incessantly. But the time came when the act wore out, and Dickie V was great for the 80s. But when things kind of moved forward and you had to understand something about the game. He was all shtick, and wasn't really solid foundation knowledge-wise. And he would kill me if he heard me saying this. But I know an act when I see it. It's like Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh is a great act, okay? And, do I think he knows a goddamn thing? No. But I think that to his audience, he conveys it, and he's very entertaining. And I think that's the key to being a broadcaster, is you've got to be able to sell what it is you're saying. And boy, it's no different than putting an inexperienced left tackle in. I have seen so many people who get thrown on the air who is like, oh no, this is a disaster. This is like the worst thing you can imagine. Why do they do this? And I'm trying to remember who was the one guy they had who I think he was a sideline announcer on Monday Night Football, and after one or two broadcasts he was shit canned because he froze on the air. And it's like I want to say that he was a
guy for
Hispanic fellow.
That was a guy for ESPN, I think, when they first took on the Monday night schedule.
Yeah. It was a disaster, and he was a good-looking Hispanic guy, as I recall. Really nice-looking guy.
Okay, yeah.
But he freaked out.
I was thinking he was
literally
Indian
fell
for
apart.
some reason.
He
but, yeah.
had been a fill-in for Sports Center,
Oh. Yeah, whatever.
and so
Kevin
they
Agandi?
decided to give him that job, and then he
Kevin
was just
Agandi?
gone from the fucking.
I don't know. I don't know the name. All I remember was watching him die, and it was like, and it reminded me of doing stand-up comedy and dying, which I did. It's a necessary thing for you to gain your confidence, because you got to grow a pair if you're going to be on camera. I mean, let me be honest about this. I mean, I'm a fucking gargoyle. I don't belong in front of a camera. But the truth of it is, the confidence that I have to do podcasting is because I'm comfortable in front of the microphone. This is what I've done. And as I've gotten older, all the experience I had, if you've ever stood up in front of a crowd that you will never see again for the rest of your life, and you've never seen before, and you have to win them over with jokes. And if you're not good, if you can stand up and do 12 to 15 minutes dying on stage in front of hundreds of people, then I can guarantee you can podcast,
Sergio Dip.
Yeah, right. That's it. Yeah, unbelievable thing.
He looks like Garoppolo, a lot like him actually.
I mean, just I don't know what to tell you except
Hey, one more thing I get to
Confidence.
insult Janine Garofalo for.
oh, and that's true. Jim Lampley, yeah, the first ever sideline guy. Yeah, I remember Jim Lampley, and then he went into boxing and all that. I never was a big Jim Lampley fan, but the thing about it's confidence.
Well, and he always did the Winter Olympics
Yeah.
for ABC.
All right, yeah. Oh, yeah. Brian Billick. I don't even want to talk about Brian Billick. You know, they try people who are personality oriented, and that isn't the whole name of the game. You know, I can tell you something else about podcasting. Long before there were the ability to have co-hosts and panels like this and all the kind of neat things we do, I would carry a 60-minute show 5 days a week by myself. And you have no idea how you keep that going every fucking day. You've got no idea how, you know, but gift of gab. I mean, you know, and it's so much easier now with you guys, you know, compared to what it was all the way back in 04, 05, 06. Back then, it was like, oh my God, you should listen to those shows. Oh, it's tedious.
Moo, do you think if Peyton were to get the job, would his voice be the right voice for it? I feel like that'd be a voice people would get very annoyed by pretty quickly.
Well, you're going to know it's Peyton Manning. And the thing with Tony Romo is Romo will probably become far better known as an announcer than he was as a quarterback. I mean, because he's just smooth. He's good at what he... I'm not saying he wasn't good as a quarterback, but...
He was a very good player,
yeah.
That's exactly what happened to Pat Summerall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
running down the sideline. Yeah.
Well, but he worked in broadcasting for so much longer than he was a player, and you know, when people die off that watched him play, all you remember is that guy with John Madden.
Yeah, or with Tom Brookshire when they both would drink until they were red-eyed. Yeah, what a combination that was. Tom Brookshire and Pat Summerall. Wow.
The Jack Daniels twins. Interesting commentary back then.
Yeah, but you give like Peyton Manning needs $20 million, right? I mean, it's like, oh, please give somebody an opportunity.
His deal's too good. He has that podcast and that Around the NFL thing he does on ESPN Plus. And they're paying him enough for that.
One last thing that I think is really kind of funny, and I'll leave the show with this. They have a video of people in London going to a Costco in London being sprayed down with disinfectant like they're cattle. I mean, mandatory. If you're going to go into Costco, you're going to get a hose down, you know?
It works so well in China, right?
A hose down or a hoe down?
Wouldn't that fucking piss you off? I mean, it's like a fucking robo-wash, car wash. I mean, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, I'm taking care of myself. I don't need you to spray me with fucking chemicals. I don't know what you're spraying on me.
Yeah, allergic reactions could happen there. Somebody could get sued really quick.
Well, and you know what the amazing thing is? The amazing thing is they're spraying you down, and the stuff you need, it's not on their shelves anymore because they're sold out, and they're not doing anything about it. So, I mean, it's like, oh, please. You know?
The spray might kill you quicker than the virus you're trying to protect yourself from.
These are the days we're living in. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. I think I'm just going to kind of chill out. Me and Topaz, we're just going to chill out and do whatever it is we do. And guys, thanks for joining me as always. Hey, it's nice that StreamYard worked perfectly today like it has been previously. And
500 this week.
Yeah, that's right. But I think that we're good for the next few months until something goofy happens. Again, it's just a shot in the dark. Thanks, everybody. Topaz says goodbye behind me, and we'll see you again on Monday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
No.